A lot of investors don't think that they need to worry about legal stuff because either their sponsor or their property manager is going to have it all covered for them. But that's not really true because there's at least 7 types of laws that you as an investor should be aware of just to cover your own legal self. You can't just depend on that other person. And so we're going to talk about those today on the Furlo Capital Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into the intricacies of passive real estate investing, which includes the legal side of things. And our mission is to equip people to invest wisely in both properties and residents so that together we can build wealth while improving housing. I'm James, and this is my wife, Jessie.
I'm here. I was actually kind of distracted thinking about the pile of stuff. We did some cleaning before the holidays.
Yeah.
And we just kind of piled up. We have this philosophy, which has nothing to do with the podcast, but we have this philosophy that it's like, it's hard to get rid of this. I don't want to let it go. And we're like, okay, you don't have to let it go yet. Just put it in a box or put it in the garage or move it out of your living space. And then we'll see a month, 2 months from now.
Yeah.
If you can live without it.
Still in the garage, and it's cramping my style personally. But yeah, feel free to get rid of it all. I'm cool with that.
I know. Because none of it is your stuff.
I know. It's all the kids'
It's
stuff.
just me and the kids' stuff.
But yeah, no.
Yeah, the stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there is some stuff that people would like to get rid of and never have to worry about again, like some legal things, which is often, honestly, that's a good reason why people get a property manager specifically.
Right.
But also why people do the
Deal
passive
with it.
investing, so they don't have to deal with all the legal stuff and the worries of things like that,
Yep.
which to a degree is true. However, there are some things that is important for investors, passive or otherwise, to be aware of. Just if anything, it helps you ask the right questions, and because you are not necessarily, you're not like there's still some legal obligability. There's still some legal
obligability.
Legal
Wow,
obligation.
that was a good word.
Yeah, there you go.
Obligability.
Obligability.
I like that.
That sounds like a word. We're going with it.
Obligability.
Yeah.
Obligation.
Yeah, and
responsibility.
so I was reviewing an article from 2015 actually, and so it was
long
kind of
ago.
talking about this. I know, over a decade, and so I was like, yeah, I think this is good to bring up as a reminder. So Bigger Pockets gets a little bit of the credit for the seed of this thought. That's kind of where I'm pulling it from. So again, you don't necessarily need to know the exact tenant landlord laws, but you should have an idea of what they're at, which helps you mitigate risk. What's going on. So let's dive into it. Law number 1. There are state regulations that you need to be aware of because every state defines things like security deposits, lease termination, eviction process, and tenant protections. Like, again, you don't need to know the exact wording, but you should have an idea, especially in states like Oregon. For example, when you the way you terminate a lease is very specific, and it depends on whether it's less than a year or it's been more than a year, which matters for your underwriting timelines on, hey, how fast can we increase rents or move people out and do things like that. So you want to know that for when you're evaluating a deal.
Oh.
Yeah.
So is that just to double check your sponsor?
Yeah, in a way.
Because, I mean, they should obviously know that. But if they didn't,
should.
for some reason.
And the sponsor may not, whoever the property manager is the one who should know that.
Yep.
But you want to ask questions like, what's the real eviction timeline for something? Because in theory, it's like, well, like in Oregon, for example, if someone doesn't pay their rent, well, okay, fine. They had until like the 5th to do it. So you're going to give a notice on the 6th, and even then it's going to be a 10 to 13 day notice. And then once you do that, then you're going to the courthouse to actually file. And then they're setting a court date that's a week and a half to 2 weeks later. And depending on
3 weeks
how that
in.
goes, so you got to know that kind of stuff. And you got to know, like, well, how fast can we actually increase the rents and by how much and what are the assumptions underneath there? Because, like, in states like Oregon, it's not just whatever, and it's not however much you want.
Yep.
And so that things matter. And then you might ask questions like, what tenant protections I got this tonight. Meaningfully constrain operations. Which, again, in Oregon, once they've lived there for a year, the only way you can terminate a lease is for cause. You can't just say, nah, we're good. Now, obviously, there's things like a cash for key strategy that can still definitely work, and I would recommend. But that's kind of the idea behind behind it. You want to know what your state regulations are for those things. And there's some really good other resources out there that are kind of like, here's an overview, here's some thoughts for them. Yeah. Another one, dude, it's just it's a mindset thing. Leases are not paperwork. They are enforceable financial instruments.
Ooh, that's a good statement.
Yeah. And I think
Like they're valuable pieces of paper, but
yes. And I think oftentimes we're like, whatever. We like, you got to make sure that that's not that it's not incomplete, that it's not just done sloppily, that it's not just selective compliance that you're looking for. Whatever's in the lease, like, no, we got to hold up to it. And you just got to be aware that there's some litigation leverage for tenants in states like Oregon.
Yep.
And yeah, so you want to ask things like, and this one should be pretty easy, are leases standardized and professionally reviewed, or are they just like legacy leftovers? Like for us, we use leases from an organization. There's like a few of them. They all kind of use the same lawyers to write them, and they work with them to make sure they're good. I'm like, yeah, we just pay the money and just use it because why not? It mitigates a whole bunch of risks.
What would be an example of like perhaps a lease that was incomplete or a tenant, had grounds to stand on?
So I have a friend. He was looking to rent from somebody else, so not us, and he brought me the lease agreement. And I was like, "What?" Like I was reading it, I was like, "This makes no sense." Until there was like one line in there that was like, it was talking about, and this lease shall pertain to all the rules in Montana. I was like, what the? And so it was like they found some random lease online, or maybe they lived there. I don't know. Downloaded it, printed it, and were like, here you go. Because there was a whole bunch of stuff where I was like, well, that's not legal. That's not legal. That's not legal. And it's because of some of the different state regulations. It's just different in that state. And so I told him, I was like, I would not sign this.
Fill this out.
I mean, or sign it and then never pay your rent because this won't hold up in court. It's up to you. And so you get that kind of stuff where I think too, if you just have someone who's been a landlord managing for a long time, like especially like the more like the individuals doing it, they might have their lease agreements they've been using for 20 years.
Yeah, it's just boilerplate.
Like, whatever, it's the same thing. Right. And you gotta, rules change every year. So you want to make sure that they're updated. Yeah. It's not just paperwork. It's actually important.
So a good question for the sponsor might be, where do you get your lease agreements? Do you use a third party company that updates them each year, or do you have just a boilerplate one? Or
yeah, exactly. Yep. Cool. Totally. Or did you hire your own lawyer? I guess, which I wouldn't.
Wow.
Just use the standard ones. They're so much cheaper to do that. Other things that I think are important to know is just what privacy and access rights exist for tenants. Just because like entry violations, they don't necessarily feel like they're a big deal until they are. Yeah. It was funny when I first started managing rent by the room types of place, like co-living situations. Yes. I had one where honestly, I didn't think much of it, where it was a house that it had their unit down below, but then up top were just 3 units. And I did a showing and I didn't give any notice. I was like, okay, not a big deal. In my head, the kitchen and bathroom and hallway, that was just common area. But, and I had recently taken over, but one of the tenants really saw that as like, no, that's my personal space. If you're going to come, I need a 24-hour notice, even for those common areas, which we've got another place. It's a house. And that one really is like, there's 15 people who live there in the common area. It feels like a common area. And we've set the culture is like, no, we come by at least once a week and we just check on things and it is what it is. And, but this one, it just felt, which I hadn't really thought about until the person mentioned it. She was like, were you here? I thought I heard someone in the hallway. And I was like, yeah, I was. And so she was like, yeah, I would like notice. It's like, because apparently like she treats it more like, she was like, I don't know, like, like she's whatever. It
makes sense. Yeah. She just wants to know who's around.
Things like that, which now obviously we give notice, and that was a nice little learning thing for me. Yeah. And so, but again, it didn't seem like a big deal, at least not to me. Again, I wasn't even on my radar until she said something. Right. So I think that's kind of, you can have those small little errors can turn into bigger things. Sure. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And so as a person evaluating either a sponsor or a property manager, you might want to ask about how disciplined they are about their systems, what do they have in place, and is there documentation or any notice tracking process? Like, what does that look like? Like for us, anytime we serve a notice, we keep a picture. We keep a digital version of that document, mostly because that's how it gets created, and then we got to print it, so we just keep it. But then we'll also take a picture of when it was posted, just like, hey, yeah, we did this.
Yep.
So it's there.
It's like when the postal system or Amazon delivers your package.
Right?
Take a
Yeah.
picture.
Would you
Left
like
it
to
there.
thank your guy for delivering it to you?
No, not really.
How many stars would you get?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, he dropped off a package. I don't know. I don't know how to think about this. I think law number 4 that you should be aware of is the Fair Housing Act.
It's a good one.
The FHA. There's just a lot there. And because they may not just be like legal things, like it can really affect your brand and a whole bunch of things. And what's interesting about like the FHA stuff is it can cause a lot of problems for you. So like like one accusation, it could potentially freeze up capital. It could kill refinances. It can end institutional relationships. Like you don't want to mess with that piece of it. So you'll ask questions like, well, does the sponsor or the property manager, how do they train their staff? Like how are decisions documented? Is the advertising standardized? That kind of stuff, which for the most part, ours is.
Yeah.
And
Does the Fair Housing Act cover screening policies as well?
yeah. Think of it as like, I think of it as like, it's the whole discrimination thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just want
Like
you really
treating
want to make
everybody
sure.
fairly all the time.
Yeah. Yes. Fairly and the same.
Yeah.
That's consistency is the trick there. Yeah. Kind of related to that, not related. It's just shares part of the name. Sorry. Law number 5 is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Is another one, which is always I always try to pronounce it whenever I see the acronym. It's like the FICRA. Like, it's not right, but whatever. But more importantly about that one, it's not that it's how you're handling the sensitive information is how you want to think about that, right? Because if you don't do it right, you just get in trouble for not handling their information properly. So like I don't so there's questions you want to ask, like, well, who handles tenant data? What systems control access? What happens when staff turns over? Great questions. That's funny, actually. I was talking with a guy recently, and he was talking about how his company, they do all their communication over text, and which is totally fine for his company. But I was like, oh man, we don't do that, because that text message, like if someone ever leaves, like all that information is still with them. Like if I'm sending them tenant information or addresses and codes, now obviously there's not much I can do if they copy it somewhere else. But at least for me, like since we do all of our primary communication through Slack, like once someone leaves, like, yeah, we just revoke access. They're done. Same with all the other systems where we don't even, we do email some stuff, but they all use a company email that I can remove access to on that. Again, there's nothing I can do if they decide to copy it to their personal laptop, but that's true for everybody.
Yeah.
And so, but those are the kind of things like you want to pay attention to. Yeah. Remember back in the days when you were pulling all those credit reports and stuff? Remember doing that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we kept paper files for a time.
No, I think we were always digital. We would scan stuff in. I had that little baby scanner.
Yeah, we did have a baby scanner.
Yeah.
We had paper documents for applications and different things, but then scan everything in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think for a lot of things, we try to digitize as fast as we could.
Yeah.
Because I was into that. I don't want to have to worry about paper stuff.
All digital.
Yeah. Yes. Though I just took over a property, and the old manager just handed me a file box of all paper files.
That's what that box was on the table.
Yeah. I was just like, what is this? And yeah, no, it's all just, they said everything was paper.
Wonderful.
Which I guess on one hand, you don't have to worry about things getting out if it's a physical document, but you got to secure it and
store it somewhere.
Yeah. And technically now they don't have a record of it. Like they don't have to worry about it. I'm like, oh man, that sounds miserable. So I'm going to scan it all in and digitize it all. And then it will be in a secure space that way. we're good. And then if
Yeah.
someone ever leaves, I can revoke access. If someone needs it, it's easy to share. But anyways,
Interesting.
yeah.
Ugh,
Um,
paperwork.
Law number 6 has to do with habitability and
Oh.
liability.
Yep.
Because habitability laws can convert deferred maintenance into legal exposure.
Yeah,
Could be a pretty big deal.
that's true.
And I think it's also like it matters for what you're going to spend for your CapEx, right? And you really, in some ways, you can think of your CapEx as like, in some ways, it's a risk mitigation, not just aesthetics. And so this is actually something we think a lot about when we're doing our flips is that whole, we couch it in terms of like, what makes this house lendable? But that's really like, what are we doing to get to that minimum habitability standard?
Sure.
And then we sell it as a
Yeah.
fixer-upper
Yeah.
from there. But like, that's a really important one.
What
I
are
think
some
it's-
examples of like habitability issues?
For like rentals or
Or like one of those flips.
Oh.
You're like you do the things to make it
so
habitable.
mold is like a big one.
okay.
Having which related could be like a roof leak,
Oh,
that
okay.
kind of thing.
Fixing
not
leaks.
having the this is less habitable, but the water heater straps is a thing.
Ugh.
You just want it to be
So
safe.
safety types of things.
Yeah. There's a cleanliness component to it.
Does that include things like that are not up to codes for the way that it's built, or is that less so?
No, less so that part of it. It's more like health and safety.
Okay.
Is how to think about it.
So
I mean,
like
if something was
electrical,
built a long time
plumbing.
ago and it was permitted and approved back when
Yeah.
it was made, like fine.
Yeah.
But if there's like I said, if there's a health or safety concern,
Mm.
that leads into the habitability. Though interesting, one of the rules is you have to have floor coverings, which is you can't just have subfloor, which I find fascinating that that's a rule.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, it's probably good. It just creates weird situations for us, like when we want to sell a house and we
They
know
want
the
their own
owner's going to
flooring.
go in and put in new flooring. And so we have to put in temporary flooring
Yeah.
just
It's
to
weird.
pass the appraisal and like, all right, whatever. And they tear it out, but it's fine. And so one of the things you do want to ask about, especially for longer term holds, is like, what are the inspection cadences? What's the preventative maintenance philosophy? And what's the reserve strategy? Because these types of repairs do
Yeah,
come
they're
up.
going to happen.
Yeah, we're running into an issue right now where we've got an owner who, the place is habitable, but the tenants they want the entire inside repainted, and he's just like, I don't have the money for this,
Yeah.
and because it actually sat vacant for a while, and now he's getting it rented out. We got new tenants who are moving in, and they're making some pretty big requests, and he's like, I can't, I don't have money. So we're having to have tough conversations with the tenants. We're like, sorry guys, like this has to wait until the summer, and it's totally habitable.
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
It's just a preferential.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's a nicer house, and so their standards are going to be a little bit nicer. It's also time of year, like weird people rent, so whatever. And so what we're dealing with that because he doesn't have a reserve amount. Well, he did, but because of some issues, it sat vacant for 3 months, and that reserve's gone.
Yep.
And so he's like, no, I can't afford this. So we're working through that.
Yep.
Right now. Law number 7, evictions and terminations.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Hard truth is cash flow is only real if it's enforceable. And we've got some places that we've taken over where the previous manager just didn't enforce stuff. And
Yep.
it's funny, like, so we actually just recently gave notice to a tenant to move out. And it was because we asked him, we're like, hey, it was he got assistance for some help for a few months, which didn't even cover all of his background because he didn't pay rent for like 18 months. And they're like, well, we can help
Yikes.
out with 4. Like, cool. I mean, I'll take it. It's great. But we were talking to him. I was like, so what's the plan moving forward? And he was like, I don't have one. I'm like, okay. But like, what do you think was going to happen here?
Yeah.
But like in the past, he didn't have to have an answer. The manager just like,
They were just like,
"Okay,
whatever."
whatever. Didn't even say anything. Didn't even have the conversation.
Wow.
And so we've given him notice. And it was just hard, which is really hard because I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, hey, thanks for the money. But like,
Yeah.
it's that
it's
didn't
not
catch you
all
up.
good.
Whereas, for the record, we're nice. There's another guy. He's also behind. But not only is he paying his rent, but he's paying a couple extra $100 every single month and slowly catching up. Like, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I will work with you all the time. And I even told him like, and if you get a month where you can't do any extra, fine. I get it. At least do what your rent is. Stop digging the hole and then start catching back up. And he's doing it.
Yeah.
Totally cool with that. And this guy's just like, I don't have a plan. Well, I guess I can't help you. So yeah, but you want to know, like I said, you want to know what the eviction timelines are, like we were talking about a little bit earlier. You want to know what, like, you want to be aware of like retaliation claims. What are some illegal self-help actions? Like you can't lock people out, things like that. Used to be able to, apparently.
Wow.
I know. Well, someone didn't pay rent, you just change the locks. Done. Hold their stuff ransom.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, yeah, you definitely can't do that
Yeah,
now.
not anymore. Oh, yeah, no, that's a
That'd be bad.
big no-no. And so, but yeah, so, but you want to be aware of like under what circumstance can you do this? And so as an investor, again, you're going to ask questions like, well, what are the real turnover timelines for these things? Because it's not just, oh yeah, 30 days, we'll go in and move it. Like when we did our 11-unit apartment building, remember, we went through and we gave everybody notice. It was either 30 or 60 days, and everybody was gone within a month. And we were able to go through and do our rehab. Like that today, you're not allowed to do that particular strategy. And so you just gotta think different about it, you know, and which is fine. You just got to be aware of it. And we've tried the other strategy as well. Like, well, we'll just let everybody live there and we'll just slowly fix the places as they move out. And that strategy did not work as well. And so, I mean, cash flow is fine, but just in terms of fixing it up, like some people were just like, no, I'm going to live here forever.
Yeah, right.
Like, cool.
It's
So
different.
I just keep raising the rent on them. Like, eventually it'll hurt enough. But honestly, like they've all like which is half okay. A lot of them are on housing assistance anyways. So I'm just like, well, they're just like, cool, whatever, just submit it. And so their rent goes up by $5. I guess I'm like, I guess I don't care because my CapEx is super low and my rent's going up, but it's just kind of weird. But anyways, you want to know what those rules are.
Yeah.
It's important.
Just knowing the reasons why and when you can terminate as well, I think are important. You know, like you were saying,
Yeah.
you can't just do things like lock them out or close things up or whatever, or stop services. But there's also reasons why you would or wouldn't be able to terminate the lease, you know?
Right.
If you're just like, I don't like the way this person looks anymore, that's like, no, that's not a valid reason.
Yeah. No, true. I don't like their new significant other.
Right.
And I think it's important as an investor, just, man, you should know what you're getting into. Like you shouldn't walk in with an expectation of like, oh yeah, we're going to turn this thing over in 3 months and it's going to be great. Like, no, you're not going to do that. And especially again, if you're hiring a property manager, you got to know like, nah, they got limits as well. They can't do heroic things for this. They can do a lot for you, but not those specific things. And I think the common thread between these laws, I think it's like, they just they slow things down. They increase friction. They punish sloppiness, but they reward systems.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key takeaways and why you want to know what those are. So you just want to be aware of like the spreadsheet samurai type of person, because they might ignore some of that legal side of stuff because they're just throwing it, which could be me, because they could just throw it into an underwriting spreadsheet and call it good, which again, I do a lot of that. Helps also being a property manager. I'm very aware of the legal side of things.
Yep.
And so you just want to be aware of that, that other professional type of person who kind of takes it all into account and has reasonable. It's funny. I've seen some underwriting spreadsheets where they have a singular time for completing the rehab and then doing the tenant turnover. Like they make that time frame. It's the same cell. It's the same number. And oftentimes they're in states where it's like, yeah, you can do that. However long it takes you to do the rehab, that's how long it takes you to do a turnover because you're just like, you're just moving people out as you go. And I have actually split that into two because I can do my construction, but I fully recognize the turnover time on the tenant piece to get everyone up to rents. Like those are just two different numbers. And so I often extend it out longer just because I know it will.
Yeah.
And so you want to be aware of things like that and how those work. So some questions to ask your sponsor or PM to kind of round out this episode is what law has most impacted your returns? So just good to know. what have you been surprised by, either positively or negatively? Just again, thinking legal standpoint. And then what compliance mistake taught you the most? I think is good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Which I don't know if compliance is it, but that story of me going into the shared living space, be like, oh,
Right, be like, huh.
okay.
Yeah.
Got to be aware of
Gotta
that.
think about that.
Yeah. Again, I've inherited tenants who they're like, there's no lease at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll go through and we'll fix that and we'll have those conversations. It's kind of funny. We oftentimes, like, tenants don't know. They have no idea. And so we'll say, well, we're going to say deposit is 0. And that's usually like, that's my test for whether or not they actually read it. Because if they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, they sign it. I'm like, really? Okay, cool. But oftentimes they're like, actually, no, there should be a deposit of like $500 here. I'm like, sweet, sounds good. Which I think for those other ones, like, if the time comes to move out and they're like, where's my deposit? I'll be like, you said 0. If they're like, well, no, it was actually whatever. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll give it back to you. I don't care. For the most part. But because like, I don't know. Nobody knows.
Yep. There
And
was
so,
no record.
Yeah. So I think the way you want to think about the laws is that there's not necessarily that they make limitations for you. You just got to think of them as your operating terrain. It's kind of the thought. And again,
guidelines of
it
how to
rewards
operate.
systems. And so if you invest with someone with systems, you'll just do better.
Yeah.
Because it's so fun fact, like AI is kind of all the rage now. And there are certain companies where are saying, hey, we need to create laws to manage this and to make sure things don't get out of control. And we need to put controls in place for this, which on the surface sounds good and smart.
Sure.
But the problem is that what it means is that whoever's already big, they get to remain. Because someone small is not going to be able to come in and do all the compliance and set up all the controls for it. And so it's a weird way of, and it's one of those, they have good intentions. It's not 100% one way or 100% the other, but they're also like, but this is also pretty convenient that it's going to stop anybody else from coming in and stealing our lunch. And so that's one of the downsides of regulation. And so again, I think about all the different rules that Oregon's putting in place. Man, it's hard for someone brand new to come in and be like, okay, you got to remember to do this. You got to remember to do this. Got to remember to do this. As opposed to someone who grew into all these new laws, like, okay, we'll change the system for this one thing. They're actually at an advantage for those things because it's an operating terrain. So you want to just keep that in mind when you're looking at your either property manager or sponsor.
There you go.
Yeah, counterintuitive, but there it is. Yeah. I think that's what I got.
Cool.
I had like a final thought, but it's not important. So I think again, those laws are just important, and you don't need to know exactly what all of them are, but it's really important you at least understand the broad strokes of what it is that you're investing in.
Are there some good resources that you would look into or go to so you don't have to just like read the legalese of everything?
That is a fantastic question. I don't have that resource, so I can't say just go to me. No, there used to be some really good ones, and those websites have all changed hands over time. Honestly, it might be one of those where it makes sense to just head over to Chat GPT and put in some of the questions, and there's actually a search option in there, and just say, hey, I want to know about Oregon laws for terminating a tenancy. Like, what does that look like? What's the timing? What are the fees? What are some of the state regulations around things, and what are my FHA things that I need to look out for? Yeah. That's probably like the best search thing that you can do.
Well, typically a search like that would give you the ORS number. You could go back to the original law and read it.
Well, yeah. Well, if you specifically click the search thing, it will include links to all those. Sure. And so I would read the summary and then click through the link to see what it says. But yeah, there used to be, what was the name of it? Cozy.co, I think back in the day. They had like a landlordology website. They got bought by apartments or whatever the big one is, and it's all gone.
They changed it.
But they used to have a really nice, like, it was 1-page summary of the main bullet point laws for every single state. They're like, such a brilliant move from an SEO standpoint. Brilliant. I was like, so good. And I suppose if I was smart, I could create like a Oregon law, again, 1 page. Yeah. Here's just a great resource for everything that you should know. Not a bad idea. I could create that and then just kind of update it.
If
as
people start
laws
asking
change.
for it, I could see.
Yeah, I could see that being something that I send to owners. Just like, hey, FYI, just so you're aware, like specifically make it for owners with a property manager where they don't necessarily need to know all the
Right.
stuff,
But
even
it's
though
like,
we can
this is
provide
what we're
links.
operating under.
But yeah, here's kind of the laws.
So you're in the know.
Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to. I'll have to decide how worth my time it is to do so. Like, if there's demand and need for it, cool. But if not, I'm like,
Makes sense.
to talk about it. So yeah, good question though. I like it. Well, thanks for listening and learning about some laws and kind of the things to be aware of. I genuinely do think it's important, and like the underwriting is very important, but I think the legal backdrop is also just as important for you to understand. So hopefully that was helpful. And if you are interested in investing with us and kind of jumping through those legal loopholes with us, we're happy to do it too. You can learn more about us at furlo.com. So with that, thanks for listening. Have a great day.